Hey guys, welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates III, and today I'm sitting down with my friend Ricardo Rosales. How you doing, man?
I'm doing amazing, bro. Thank you for having me here, RJ.
Yeah. So you're the first guest that I've ever had on a real estate investing podcast that says, hey, I don't identify as a real estate investor anymore. So I saw this post on Facebook. I got to ask you, what do you mean by that, man? What's going on over there? You okay?
I'm doing great, brother. I couldn't be more fulfilled today than I have been in the last, 15 years that I did as a real estate investor. And the reason I made that post, RJ, is because, we all get trapped from time to time on our ego. Like,
Yep.
This is who I am. These are the deals that I do. Look at my HUDs, look at my checks, and I'm having $200,000 a week, and it's all nice and pretty, but there's more to it than just real estate.
Yeah.
And what I recently realized, and I say recently is in the last 2 years, is that real estate was a stepping stone for me. So, and I'll give you a background. I started in real estate in 2008 because I was just watching TV. I was seeing people like you on TV flipping houses and stuff. And I'm like, man, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And I had a W-2 job and I made good money. I used to work offshore, oil rigs all over the world. So when I was not on the rigs, I was like, you know what? I got to make money somehow because I don't want to go be like my friends that they spend all their money on toys and guns and trucks or whatnot. I wanted to reinvest my money. And that's how I got into real estate.
Gotcha.
Fast forward, man, I think in between 2008 and 2015 as a W-2 employee, I did at least 200 properties in between rentals and flips. I found out I didn't like being a landlord. I tell you that much. I hated it.
Same, brother, same.
I was like, the heck with being a landlord, man. I get it. Depreciation, appreciation. I'm still a landlord by necessity, okay?
Yeah.
For tax purposes. And you know what? Maybe my dream was there's a guy here in town, shout out to Blake Jarbro. Blake is the one that kind of like got me thinking big when it came to real estate. He used to go to these meetups and talk about how he owned 100 rentals and he was making $40,000 a month in passive income,
Passive,
yeah.
Passive, yeah.
And I was like, man, that's a lot more money than what I make working offshore, risking my life. I want to do that. And that's why I went that route. And, later on, I found out that it was not passive, number one.
Right.
Number two, I tried companies that will manage it for me, and the problem always ended up on my lap, and I ended up paying more for it than fixing a property than I would on my own. So I took all the properties on myself, and then I started liquidating them all because I'm like, you know what, this is not fulfilling at all, and I don't like it. I hate evicting an 80-year-old lady because they're sons are not paying the rent or whatnot. So I also realized that the same effort that it took me to buy, flip, rehab, and rent a property was the same effort that I did if I sold it and made a bigger check. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, why do I want to put all these efforts into this long-term, plan that I know it works, but when I can have it quick, I can have much more money quicker by just doing flips. And that's how I went from being a landlord into being a fix and flipper. So in 2015, I got laid off from my multiple six-figure job. And I was like 36, 37 years old. And I said, you know what, man? I already know how to do this real estate. I just got to figure out how to do it to where I can live from it. Like, because let's face it, when I was in the W-2 world, my take home was $300,000. Dude, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I don't know who was gonna hate on a job like that. And that was like my golden handcuffs, man. It was hard for me. Dude, I did everything I could to get fired and nobody ever fired me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna let go of this paycheck.
Yep.
But finally the day came in. I think I attracted it, to be honest with you. With the law, I used the law of attraction to get me out of the corporate world. And I got laid off, and they actually gave me a pretty good chunk of money to walk away. And I said, okay, what do I do now? I can do sales or I can do real estate. And I chose real estate because it's what I already knew what to do.
Right.
We went from flipping 2 to 3 houses at a time. Into 2017, I was doing 47 flips at a time.
Jeez.
And this is all in the Houston area, all rehabs. So, and RJ, the only reason I did that is because I was running away from being poor. That was it. It was not to get rich. It was the opposite. It was like, if I don't buy all these houses and flip them, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills, because I had a lifestyle set up for those 300 grand that I was making at the time.
Right.
And I was like a rapper, you know. I was like, I bought a house, a car for my mom, for my daughter, for my mother-in-law. I had 2 because I had to have a car and a truck for the rehabs, of course.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, so I was like, man, I got to make all this money. And I just don't know when my next paycheck is coming. And one thing I realized is that every time I closed on a deal, I got $5 grand for as a general contractor, because I was rehabbing my own houses. And that was up front. And then on the back end, I will make the profits when I sold the property, right?
Right.
So if I buy 5 houses a month, that's 25 grand. That covers my salary from my previous job.
Right.
Now, all I got to do is build crews that can rehab all these houses and keep them, you know, employed. And before you knew it, man, we built the Frankenstein. And I say this all the time. You have to be careful when you build these monsters, because the monsters need to be fed.
Oh, yes.
And we kind of like found, and I say we is because I have partners at the time, and we found ourselves in a trap to where we had to constantly be buying and selling properties fast and rehabbing them. So we had a cookie cutter system for the rehabs. Most of our houses, I actually got approached by my sister lives in LA. She's a producer for movies and stuff like that. And she approached me back in 2016 and said, hey, they're looking for a guy that's doing rehabs. Do you want to, you know, audition or talk to them to see if you're a good fit? And right off the bat, I told her, I said, I'm not a good fit for them because I have a boring product. My houses are all cookie cutter.
Yep.
They all got the same paint, the same granite. And at this point in my life, I'm not willing to sweeten it up a little bit for them. So I'm like, I'll talk to them, but once I told them what it was, and they're like, yeah, you're not good for us. But I said, hey, but I got a lot of drama behind fixing and flipping all these houses, you know? So they're like, nah, we're looking for people just want to see the backsplash and all these renovations and all that. And I said, all right, no big deal. But that's how we built that Flicks and Flipping company. And then in 2017, when I thought I was rich, dude, I had millions of dollars in my checking account. I had a lot of houses. I had, 60 people working for us directly in our warehouse. We had a warehouse where, all the leftover materials from the jobs, they go to the warehouse. And then you end up buying a little bitty house somewhere and you just use the leftovers and boom, you didn't spend money on materials.
Right.
That's when Hurricane Harvey came in, man. And what disrupted us was we lost all of our workforce in a matter of 30 days.
Oh, geez.
So now here I am. And by the way, I had 20 deals that I had 20 rehabs I was working on, but I had another 27 under contract with private money lined up already, ready to close. So when Harvey happened, I kept most of the guys employed, or they actually stayed with me for a while. So I went and closed on these 27 projects. And within a month, all my workforce walked away. and now I got 47 projects. I got all of them on private money, and I'm just bleeding like left and right.
Yep.
Now I did have money, so I'm like, I'm not worried about it. I know in 6 months I'm gonna be okay. So because the work will die out. We just didn't know the extent of Harvey, and man, 6 months came about, and I'm still struggling to find people to work. 12 months come around, and I'm like, what do I do? I'm almost broke now.
Right.
And I remember I'm having a few conversations with one of my attorneys, and the guy's like, dude, just get ready to file for bankruptcy. And I was like, bankruptcy? I'm not bankrupt. I'm like, I just got a cash flow problem right now.
Right.
And he's like, no, dude, you are bankrupt. Like you don't have any more money coming in. Your interest payments are killing you. The best thing you can do is file for BK and wipe it all out and start from zero. And I was like, no, I don't believe in that. I think if I file for bankruptcy, I know I'm going to stick it to a lot of my lenders that I don't want to stick it to. And those guys, for the most part, were working with me through the whole time, you know. Yep. And that's one hard conversation to have, is to come to your private money lender and say, hey, man, I don't have any more money. And by the way, your house is 50% finished.
Right.
Can you give me more time? And the guy's like, I guess, you know, like, you know, and some guys took the houses back. They're like, you know what? Just give me the property back. I'm good.
Can you give me more time and can you give me more money?
And some of them did both.
Right, right.
Some of them did both because they didn't want to get stuck with a property that was unfinished. I remember one guy, he had $3 million with me. He walked away with all his properties fixed, all of them. But there were other people that didn't do it because they didn't give me more money and they didn't give me more time. So they took what they took, and then we didn't lose and things of that nature. And that's what forced me to become a wholesaler. See, I wasn't even like, I was doing lead generation and I was negotiating on my properties just like you do, but I was doing it for me. I wasn't doing it to wholesaling, and I didn't really understand wholesaling at the time, like what it is today, you know, where you can do it at a scale and you can do multiple contracts and create a massive operation just out of wholesaling. I wish I would have known that before I got into flipping, because otherwise I would have never gotten into flipping. So we went and started doing wholesaling, and just to pretty much pay our debts and continue the lights on, you know, keeping the lights on. But something started happening, which is somewhere around, I would say 2019 to 2020, we started wholesaling at a scale. So now we're having 20, 30, 40 contracts in our hands at any given time. But I wasn't fulfilled because I was doing it with people that were mediocre. Like, I would leave money on the table every single time because these people didn't go 100%. And I just didn't know how to fix it. And you know, you can talk about hiring new people. We did that. Creating new processes for interviewing people. We did that. Paying a salary and a commission. We did that. Paying commissions only. I mean, I tried everything in the books and everything all my friends were doing. One thing I found out about my friends is that they were all full of shit because they were all rebuilding their operations every 6 months to a year. Okay, every single one of them. And I'm not gonna name drop anybody here, but we all suffer from the same illness.
Yep.
But we didn't show that on social media. You know, in social media, we're all Supermans and we're all killing it, right? But when I go to their office, I'm like, hey, dude, how come you only got 3 guys here right now? Oh, I just fired them all yesterday, and you know, I'm starting back up, right? Yep. So what I realized is that some people were real good at moving fast and failing forward, moving fast. And I said, okay, if so-and-so is doing this and so-and-so is doing that, that means I got to adapt and do the same. But I run off the Vision Traction Organizer, okay? And I use the EOS system. And one day, RJ, I remember at that time, you and I were doing some deals together that for some reason we could never close, but I was just frustrated because I had some of your deals, I had some of my deals, and I had some of other people's deals. And I'm looking at this pipeline. It's $1.5 million to collect.
Yep.
And if we came close 20%, it was too much. And I'm like, we didn't collect $1 million or $1.2 million. Why? How can I fix this? And I'm looking at my vision traction organizer, right? And the only thing that has been constant in my business up to that point were my 2 VAs. Her name is Carla and his name is Carlos. They're brother and sister. And I said, how come I haven't put more time and effort into training these 2 guys to do what I do and started doing it virtually?
Right.
And that was the day before I said, I'm going to quit being a wholesaler. Okay. So I said, I got to think about it because I don't know what I'm going to do next. Like if I don't wholesale, and I just got tired of retraining people. Training. And at some point, I'm like, okay, I just trained half of the Houston area. Now they're my competitors, right?
Right.
Or collaborators, however you want to put it, because sometimes we'll end up collaborating. But I wasn't in the education business. I wasn't charging for it. You know, I just had a platform for my wholesaling business, and I would train these guys, and in a way, we both make money. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, I already have seen one guy do this successfully. And that's the one thing. If I can see somebody doing it, I'm like, okay, it's possible. I'm going to go for it. I seen this guy. His name is Amir. And Amir had already been working with Egyptians closers. And I said, okay, I don't know anything about Egyptians or Egypt, but I am from Venezuela. I'm from here, from the U.S., but I grew up in Venezuela. So, and I have ties with a lot of people there. So all I have to do is find people that have good English, that are trainable, and that are hungry to make money. So I got these 2 guys, Carla and Carlos, to start building me a little army of like texters, because at the time I was doing text messaging.
Right.
And that worked. So we were flooded with leads. And then I'm like, okay, I got to get them to be closers now. And we started training them to be closers, and that worked. And then, okay, now we got to dispo these deals. We got to show them how to be dispo people. And before you knew it, I had a team of 20 to 30 people working for me on my wholesaling operation. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. And for the first time, I had been making more money than ever before because I was keeping more of the money. Right. So if I made $100,000, I was keeping like 70. And I'm like, hold on a second. On my previous life, I made $100,000, but I kept 20, maybe 20.
Maybe.
Right. You know, I'm like, shit, I'm better doing this. I'm doing less deals, it's less stress, and I'm doing it from overseas, which it cost me a lot less money. So at that point, I started getting students, like people that are, hey, Ricardo, I seen you doing all these deals and you're doing it virtually. Can you help me do it? And I'm like, sure, man, pay me $15,000 and I'll give you 3 months of my life. Because now at this time, I'm done doing it for free. I'm like, I'm not going to do this shit for free anymore. I'm out of it. If somebody wants my time, then it better be worth it. And they're like, sure. So they pay me the $15K and I train them. They started implement. That's a good thing. When you got a student that pays you and you tell them to do something, guess what they do? They go do it. So
take action, baby.
That's absolutely, because now they got skin in the game, right? Yep. But one thing got me was they started like, hey, but by the way, can I get one of your VAs? And I'm like, I can't. Like, those are my VAs. You got to go train your VAs.
Right.
They're like, well, but you find me one and I'll train him. No problems. So little did I know, the universe started pushing me on that route. And I just couldn't say no to those guys, because now I'm like, they're right. I'm giving in the process, the systems and processes, but I'm really not giving in the whole solution. So I started producing VAs for other people on the cold calling and texting and you know, dispo VAs and all of that. And one day we got it was late 2022, we had 100 VAs already deployed for a bunch of my students, but half of them were for me because I was still running wild with the wholesaling. But it was hard for me to walk away from wholesaling because, I mean, think about it. If you do 5 deals a month and you're doing 10,000 a pop or 17K a pop, that's still 50 to 100 grand. That revenue is still pretty healthy. So if I change my 50 VAs for that, I will lose the revenue from the wholesaling, but now I gain it from a whole different business that I don't know anything about.
Right.
So it took me a while to transition into that. And then that last quarter of 2022 was horrible. So we started having a lot of clients drop VAs left and right. And I'm like, I started absorbing them on my own operation. And for about 3 months, I had 100 VAs on my payroll with no income coming in. And that hurts.
Yeah.
You know, it don't matter what you pay your VAs. It's still a 5 to 6 figure payroll. And they were all virtual. So it was very hard to like create a good culture. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to get me an office, and I'm going to start replacing the virtual VAs for people that are going in the office. And one day I wake up and now I have 50 VAs going to the office. They're working for guys like you and me and other people. And that made me kind of like step away from my identity as a real estate investor, because now if I'd have kept that identity, I wouldn't be able to serve the people I'm serving today to the highest level. It's hard for me to give you my best dispo guy, RJ. You know what I'm saying? Like, you call me and say, hey, Ricardo, I need a dispo guy. And guess who the best dispo guy is working for? It's working for me. And I'm like, how do I give this guy up, man? Like, this guy is worth golden. But I know you got 40, 50 deals on your pipeline. And here I am only handling maybe 5 or 7. I'm like, you know what, man? Just go work for this guy, man. Because you're going to be better off on that operation than you're going to be on my operation. And don't get me wrong, I'm still flipping a couple of houses. And I'm not doing any wholesaling right now or even lead generating, because my focus is to serve other people today. I feel that's my calling. I feel that that's where the universe pushed me in to do it. The other thing is, I see now a virtual assistant as I see as a house. So when you buy a house and you fix it and you rehab it and then you rent it, then you get your cash flow, $300, $400, $500, depending on what the location and type of property or whatnot. A VA is no different. But I don't have to sign for a loan.
Right.
I don't have to manage contractors. I just have to hire well, and then I got to train them well. And guess what? As soon as that VA is deployed, now I have cash flow, and it's also a sellable business because it's a human resources business. It's not really a real estate business where if you have a package of houses, guess what? You and me are knocking that guy down like crazy.
Right.
Oh, you think you got $5 million worth of houses? No, in RJ's mind, in my mind, you only got 2, man. So because that's what we're willing to pay, right? But if I have a real business that has real processes and systems and has a human resources person, and it's got a manager, it's got supervisors. We have people all the time listening to the calls, all the time. So now I can grab that business in 5 to 10 years and say, you know what, I can sell this.
I love that, man. I want to go back to the part where you were flipping and Harvey hit. Because what's funny about that, well, there's nothing really funny about it, but I resonate with your story because ours is very similar. Unfortunately, you said if you had known about wholesaling, you wouldn't have done that. I knew about wholesaling. I was just a dumbass. So, I got myself in this almost identical amount of trouble there, where it's like, hey, I owned all these houses. I had cash flow issues, which mean crews were leaving, finding other work, different scenarios, right? Hey, I had crews in Hawaii. Some of the crews moved away from Hawaii and moved to another location, just all kinds of craziness. When you had those conversations with your lenders, I know I approached it as, hey, we can either do this together. I'm going to need more money. I'm going to need more time. But no matter what, I'm going to make you whole. Is that a similar type conversation
Yeah.
that you had with those lenders?
Yeah, and honestly, RJ, I'm gonna be completely transparent. You know, I don't have to hide anything anymore. I don't think I ever hide it, but I did kept it in the dark for a while until one day I felt like that elephant was on my back and I needed to let it out. And I went on Facebook one day and I just made a big ass post about it. And I said, you know what? Things are not what they look like, you know, and it was just me releasing that this is where I'm at right now, and this is what I'm doing to fix it, right? But I would go to every lender was different. Number one, it was all private money, so it wasn't institutional money by any means. So if it would have been a hard money lender, that's a very hard conversation. The hard money lender is going to execute when that note is done. It's a done deal. Then they're gonna sue you for deficiencies, and if you don't have money to pay, there goes the judgment. Boom, no big deal.
Right.
So that's the hard money lender. Private money lenders are different because this is regular people with their own money or their 401ks or whatnot. I've made a lot of money to these people in the past. I mean, these were not new lenders. These were lenders that have been working with me for 3 or 4 years already. And some of those guys actually retired their wives because I made them so much money. I honestly, so 2 of them, my wife is retired because of you. And I said, okay, perfect. Good for you. That means business is going well. What happened was they all start working with me, but eventually patience runs out. 24 months goes in the deal, man. That house is still in there collecting dust. You can't finish it because you're in a dark place. You cannot find people. Your cash flow is gone. You don't have reserves anymore. American Express and those guys are no longer on your side.
Right, exactly.
So, and I just had to say, hey, man, you guys either continue to work with me and wait until I'm done, or you do what you gotta do.
It's funny. I did a video review of a closing that I did in 2018, and inside of the closing, I am actually talking about I had 2 properties sitting on the market in Denton, Texas. And someone in the comments said, dude, you had a property sitting on the market in 2018. What'd you mess up? And what they don't understand is it's just because the market was super hot didn't mean that everything was perfect for every real estate investor, right? We still had issues with cash flow, with finding labor, with getting material. Like when you took on the amount of inventory that you and I had, I don't understand what's going on in my office.
Apologize. That's the smoke alarm.
I got a smoke alarm going off on me here. Hey, but no, I mean there's issues like in our circumstances where we had just too much volume going on.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel pressured to do that much volume because of, like you said, friends, social media?
No, RJ. I'm glad you asked that question. We got big and nobody knew who we were. Nobody, because we were not on social media. We were not the members of the local RIA. I was just a guy that had a job, that got laid off, that was trying to pay bills. That was it. And I knew how to find properties and I knew how to raise money. So let me tell you how we got to social media. One day, one of my private lenders says, hey, I'm going to send somebody to your office. And when your private money lender says, I'm going to send somebody to your office, you open the damn door and you receive the person, right? So this guy comes in and they're like, I'm looking for Ricardo. And I'll say, that's me. Can I have a seat? And I'll say, sure. How can I help you? And I'm thinking, this is another private money lender or something like that. It's somebody that want to learn how to flip houses. And they're like, how do you find your house? This guy starts drilling my head. And I'm giving him all the information. And they're like, how many houses you got under contract? And I showed them my board. And at the time I had like, I don't know, 15, 10 houses under contract. And they're like, how do you get all these deals? And they were all 70% deals, all of them. And I'm like, I just do marketing and I answer the call because we did a lot of mailers at the time. I answer the phone call when the call comes in and we go visit the property and boom, we get the deal done. The guy leaves. The next week, another guy shows up. This time, this other guy is like unannounced. And they knock on the door. I open the door and I'm like, what's up? I'm looking for Ricardo. And I was like, you're looking at him. Well, how can I help you? So-and-so told me you're flipping a lot of houses and I want to learn how you do it. And I'm like, all right, man, come on in. So all this time, like it happened like 10 times, RJ. And I will drag my business partner at the time, Dennis, into the meetings. And it will give these people like 2 hours of our time. And then they'll leave and we never see them again. And one day Dennis is like, dude, you realize that we're teaching all these people that we don't even know who they are. And we're giving them 2 hours. And then you and me don't get home until like 10 or 12 p.m. at midnight because these guys took 2 hours away from us. And I'm like, yeah, that is what I guess is the universe is telling us to give back. And I don't want to quit giving back to people if that's what the universe wants. And he's like, yeah, but there's a better way. And I was like, how? Let's just talk on YouTube, man, and put it out there, right? And I'm like, I don't know anything about YouTube, dude, or a podcast or anything like that. I didn't even know what a podcast was. And he's like, look, man, I follow all these people. Let's just do something like they do. And in 2016, we started our podcast. It used to be called the Renovating Riches Podcast because it was all about rehabbing and stuff like that. And every time somebody came to the door, we say, go watch the 40 episodes we got out. Then you call me if you need me. And that's how we got into the whole social media Dude, I had a videographer back in 2016 work for me full time. Who had that? Nobody. And it was just because we wanted to like give back. That's how we got into the whole social media thing. Then we started being invited to the local RIAs. And I realized when we went and spoke and we told them everything we were doing, these people, and you felt this way before, they thought you were God. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just a regular guy just pursuing my dreams, right? So it all got big way before we were even on the spotlight locally. You know, and then I started realizing that there were other guys in other cities doing the same thing, and I started connecting with them, and that's why I met guys like you and, you know, a bunch of other people, Steve and Carlos and you know, the guys in Florida. I mean, there's so many of them out there, and they're not on social media, man. We were not, and we quickly realized we were one of the biggest games in town when we started networking locally, because of, you know, everybody talks, so and so is doing this, so and so is doing that, and when they see our operation, they were like, man, you guys are fully integrated. You do more than most of the other guys are doing. I just didn't know how to do it different. And it all came from necessity. RJ, wasn't because I wanted to be rich or something like that. I was just running away from being poor, man. That was it.
There you go. I want to ask you about the VAs that are working for you now. Why do you think the VAs are more loyal to you than the Americans that were working inside of your office, you know, hand in hand where you were training them? Where does that loyalty come from?
I don't know that I would call it loyalty, but I would call it being hungry. So my guys in South America are hungry. They want to buy a car. They want to buy a motorcycle. They want a better apartment. They want to be able to take their family to have a good lunch or dinner on the weekends. They want to be able to afford.
Does that mean Americans are not hungry?
No, they're not.
I agree with you,
brother. 80% of them are not. I would say probably it's even higher than that. Is not. And don't get me wrong, RJ. We are born here in this beautiful country, man, and we got everything in our hands. Do you want a car? You go get the car you want. It's financed. You know, do you want a house? You go buy the house of your dreams. It's financed. So you can finance everything here, not over there. Over there, they have to save enough to buy their first vehicle or to buy their first apartment. Or so when you tell them you're gonna make $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month, for them that's like, what? Like, there's no jobs here that pay that much. So it's not loyalty, but it's the opportunity that we're giving them that creates that hunger for wanting to learn how to do this job. Now, what keeps them loyal is the culture we build inside the office. Like, for instance, I do crazy stuff, bro. In my city, my my call center right now is in Maracaibo, which is on the west side of Venezuela. It's very hot. Okay. I have like a 7,000 square foot office roughly. And this is brand new office. We just moved in there last week, actually. And every morning, the first hour of the day is the pay yourself hour. So we all get together, we read a book. It's like a Bible study. We dissect the book, and then they go to work. Well, that hour is on me. That hour is not on them. They're not coming in an hour early to do that. They're coming in the hour they're supposed to start working to go through that training. I buy them breakfast. I got a girl yesterday that went to do their nails. They don't pay for that. I pay for that,
awesome.
right?
I love that.
Right. I had a girl and another guy that will go there to cleanse their aura and to get them aligned and their chakras aligned and all that. And whoever wants to believe in that, they can believe it. If somebody says I don't want to be a part of that because that's against my religion or whatnot, hey, no big deal. We're not here to judge, But I'm doing things that are gonna separate me completely from the other call centers that are in the city. And
so you're building that morale and the energy inside of the office. I mean, that's important. Did you think you had that with your American wholesaling team?
We did, but it's just harder, man. It's when the expectations they want to have what you have, RJ. Right? So yeah, they want your belts, but they don't want to work for the belts. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't want to go to battle for the belts either.
Dude, and I say this all the time. I mean, we have had so many people come through Titanium Investments. And what I have seen more than anything is that they want the instantaneous gratification of closed deals and checks without putting in all the work and the knowledge that's needed to get there. And so what I'm curious about is how have you gotten like people in another country to be great at closing deals and dispositions and things like that? Because, dude, a lot of people here struggle training someone that's sitting right next to them on how to do acquisitions and dispositions. So what training processes are you like putting these people through?
So I invested a lot of money into that. Okay. I hired a lot of the great people that are in our space. I hired Sonia Ray for lead managers training. I hired Max, Max very well. Actually, I didn't hire Max. Max and I came together to do a collaboration. This was like 2 years ago when he was transitioning away from working with Steve, and he was like, "Hey, Ricardo, I don't know what to do right now." And I'm like, "Dude, I got all these VAs that I'm training to be closers. Do you want to collaborate on that?" And so we collaborated. It just didn't work out. And the reason why it didn't work out, I think it was the timing. The timing was completely off. But the good thing for me is he got to train a lot of my VAs. And I recorded all those trainings. So now every single one of the new VAs, they're going in there and they're training with Max, Sonia. I think we also got Corey Geary's Novation Nation training. So my VAs know how to do novations. The Rainmaker too. What's his name? Out of Phoenix.
Wonders.
Yeah, Rich Wonders trainings. We bought those too. Even though Corey has his way of doing things, Rich Wonders had his way of doing things. So I try to get my hands in as many trainings, and I pay for them. I will happily pay for them, because one thing they learn from each one of those guys, it makes them much better. So that's what I did, man. I invested some money in trainings and also personal coaching from those guys to my team. And Sonia trained my team for at least a whole year.
That's amazing.
And silently, she doesn't say anything about that. I don't know why. She should more, but she did an amazing job. And my guys are better because of her,
I'll tell you why she probably doesn't say that. I just had the opportunity to go out to Vegas and train Ryan Pineda's team on closing virtually, because they've always done belly-to-belly appointments. So he's like, "Hey, RJ, come out." And it was like, dude, when I got the call, I was like, dude, this is huge. We can leverage this. Like, we get to train Ryan Pineda's team. And then it's like, you go and you do it. And then afterwards, it's like, so what, am I just going to go around and brag about the fact that I trained Ryan Pineda's team? You know, I mean, it's like, what do you say about it when you don't sound like you're bragging? You know, it's kind of a weird thing. I think it's just part of the nature of business. Like, it's a cool opportunity. And she's a killer closer. I was on stage with her at Wholesaling Live in 2022, and I think she got multiple deals during that whole event. She's great. So, dude, you've gone from landlord to flipper to wholesaler, and now you're an educator, and you've got the VA services and everything like that. Is this where you want to stay, or are you always going to be changing?
No, I believe I'm always going to be changing because I am an entrepreneur by heart. So I think I will do a flip here and there, you know, when the right opportunity shows up. I still have private money available, so it'll be dumb from me not to do it. My goal is to focus not so much on the education. It's more on the VA company. So I'm laser focused on that because I believe I can get to about 600 VAs in the next 2 years. And if you multiply our average revenue from a VA is somewhere in between $1,250 to $1,500 a month. You multiply that times 600, that's a pretty chunk of change.
Yeah.
And then at some point I will sell the company. We as entrepreneurs, we can take the companies up to a certain level, but at some point you got to let somebody else come in and take over and make it bigger. I'm not one of those guys that is going to treat. I have never treated my business or businesses as my babies. Never have. Like, I've already bought and sold companies in the past and bought out partners and stuff like that. So I'm not really attached to a business, but I was attached to the real estate investor figure. Like, and even when you go to my events, we do affirmations. I am a real estate investor, and I will do the best that I can do to serve people to help them transition into a better life. And you know, and even this happened on the last event I did, which I got done doing that affirmation and I didn't feel it. And I'm like, this is weird. You know, like, I'm like, what the hell is going on with me? I'm changing now. My mentor, Robert Allen, who you know, he started as a real estate investor. And when he showed me the infopreneurial world, I said, what am I doing as a real estate investor when there's this other world out here that produces a lot more money and gives you more freedom? Because let's face it, when I was a rehabber, yeah, I had an amazing operation. I loved what I did at the time, but I was in a rat race. I was trapped I was trapped in a big ass cage. Then you go from that to wholesaling at a scale. It's no different. You know, it's no different. Right. And what I've always looked for is for freedom, not so much money. I mean, money is important, right? Like, it's like oxygen. Try to go without it and see how far you go, right? But I wanted freedom. And I think for the first time in my life, I've achieved that.
That's awesome, man. And here's the thing, like, entrepreneurs, we get started to achieve that freedom that you're talking about. But you're right. There are moments where we let our ego to a title that we basically gave ourselves. It's hilarious, right?
We bought it from somebody. I don't know from who, but we bought it from somebody.
Right, but I'm gonna go be a real estate investor. And then it's like 3 years later, maybe you don't want to be a fix and flipper anymore. Maybe you do want to be a wholesaler. Maybe you don't want to be a wholesaler. Maybe you learned about virtual assistant businesses and you want to go do that, but you're clinging on to this title. Well, also, I think entrepreneurs struggle sometimes admitting, like, hey, I failed at that, but I can still be great at something else, but I failed at that business. You and I don't have a problem with that. You and I walk around and we're like, hey, dude, fuck being a landlord. Fuck
That's
being
it.
A fix and flipper.
No, but you know who I kept away from jumping to our side as real estate investors was our boy Pat Hilton. Pat Hilton came to me one day and he's like, Ricardo, I've been thinking about doing wholesaling. Everybody's telling me to do it. And I was like, Pat, don't fucking do that.
Yep.
You're a great entertainer. You are good in your videos. You're good. You need to build on that platform. And look at where Pat is today.
He's running a 7-figure operation, not in real estate. He should have never even contemplated going to real estate because it's exactly what you said. And he didn't fall into that. Now, dude, he's speaking. He's the MC for like every big event out there. You know, I mean, he's the guy that you hire. Plus, he does all of my videos. So I love Pat for that, man. Last thing I'll say, Ricardo, before I let you go, man, first and foremost, thank you for coming on the show on short notice. We're both in Family Mastermind. I had a need to fill today, and you jumped at it. I know you've been traveling and you're tired, so thank you so much, man. Last thing I'll say is the first time that you and I spoke at an event together, I stood in the back of the room and I listened to you. And, brother, I was blown away by your energy and your presence on stage. You're a real one, man. You inspire a lot of people. So keep doing what you're doing, and I'm glad that you found the freedom that you've been searching for, man. And best of luck on your journey there. And I think you'll exceed your goals there of getting to those 600 VAs. I don't think it'll take you as long.
That's a short-term goal. It's not the long one. So we're working on that, you know. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, you know, a lot of sales, a lot of training, a lot of investment. Every time we get a VA started, it's an investment we have to do. It's not just hiring somebody. You got to buy computers, the new desk, office space, you know, the whole 9 yards. So, you know, we run a real business and we plan accordingly. So we know I don't want to do what a lot of people in our space do, which is I want to get to 2,000 deals a year. It's an ungodly amount of deals, number one. You know, the new Western people like that, they can do that. They got big infrastructures, right? But I want to set expectations that are achievable and that are, you know, I'm not saying I'm not going to dream big. I'm dreaming big. But, hey, hold on a second. Before we run, we got to crawl, and then we got to walk, and we got to learn how to jog, you know, and then eventually we can go run that 10K marathon. So I'm on a marathon. I'm not on a sprint. That's another thing, RJ. I used to be on a sprint all the time. And I got myself out of that mindset. I was like, you know what? I'm out of the sprint. I'm in a marathon. I'm thinking 5, 10, 20 years from now, this is where I want to be. I'm out of the sprint game because sprinting is too tiring.
Dude, you know what's hilarious? You brought up earlier in the episode about, you know, that there's 2021, 2022. We tried to do some. It was right after that event that we both spoke at. We tried to do some deals together. So at that time, we were doing anywhere between 60 to 90 deals a month.
Crazy, dude.
And it was miserable. I mean, there was a point in time where it was just like there were so many deals and so many people and so many JV partners and so many title companies and so many title issues and transaction coordination and all of that it wasn't fun. The money didn't matter. And at that point in time, when money doesn't matter, then you've lost the point of being an entrepreneur. The whole point of this is that you're making money to achieve freedom. And so if you don't even care about how much money you're making and you're miserable, then you've lost the point. And so we've actually just scaled it down just a little bit. And now it's so much better. And guess what? We make more money because there's less people involved.
Of course.
Less deals, less people. But guess what? It's not like we went like from 60 to 90 to like 5. It's like we just scaled it down just a little bit. And now we found a sweet spot where it's like, dude, now we're a well-oiled machine and everyone's happy and we have fun in here. We don't have people quitting and going in and out. It's like our team now is tenured. It's like almost everybody here, besides the people that are brand new, have been here for years, avoiding what you were talking about. So thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It's been a long time coming.
No, I appreciate you. I got to get you on mine next week now, brother. So let's chat offline and we'll go from there, man. Thank you for having me here, RJ, and I'll see you soon.
I owe you. So, yes, I'll definitely be on there. Guys, make sure you like this episode. Give us a 5-star review, and we will see you next week.